Jim, crypto news and analysis here. August 5th. What is going on with the markets today? The markets are pulling back. Have I predicted the markets for the fourth time in a row? Okay, let's not get too hasty, but let's look at the markets here. Currently, Bitcoin, it is pulling back a little bit ever since it tested 115K. The bands are still red on the 4-hour, on the daily. Well, they're still red as well. So the thing is that currently, at least on the 4-hour, Bitcoin, it is recovering slightly from its retest of 112K. So we have this higher low forming in this little mini range on Bitcoin here. So there is this range and it is retesting the lower discount zone, and now it is actually forming a higher low, which is actually bullish. So if this does continue higher like this and it chops higher, then we could see a reclaim of the range up here. But it's pretty dependent on Bitcoin price action, honestly, what happens. What we do have to be cautious of is that the bands are still red on the Bitcoin price action. So in case that Bitcoin does actually, we fail to make a V-shaped recovery to reclaim this range, then Bitcoin will go lower, go down to this order block, and then pretty much bleed down to 107K-ish. 107K should be a pretty fair value zone for Bitcoin. It should hold around there. If not, then it will go lower to this order block here at around 100K. So that is something to keep an eye on. Bitcoin currently, it is at least on the 4-hour, it's holding well. We'll have to see a bit more in the daily, but the daily bands are still red. So just be cautious about that. Wanted to get too horny about it. We have to see time play out for what's going to happen. Ethereum is pretty dependent on the Bitcoin price action, since Ethereum is pretty much leveraged Bitcoin at this point, where price action wise, Ethereum is stronger than Bitcoin. However, we are testing this order block here. This order block has been tested first here and then twice here, and then now it's being tested the third time. I mean, the last time it was around here, it did break through it. However, the bands are recently turning green on the 4-hour, and on the daily, the bands are still green. So there is still decent probability for Ethereum to actually bounce from this order block and retest its resistance. So I'm currently in a long here to gather some data because I need to get some fucking trades in, and I'm on this. This honestly could just fail and break down to 3,400 and bleed down to 3,100, assuming that Bitcoin does go to 107. So that is a risk to be considering of. Bitcoin dominance wise, Bitcoin dominance is pretty much grinding higher since Bitcoin, it is pretty much stronger than Ethereum on this little dip. And what I expect Bitcoin will do is that it will probably keep going higher at this range and follow a greener path, but I do think it will break down at some point. I mean, if you look at it on the higher time frame, it is pretty much in a bearish trend still. In the other chart, what I do want to give attention to is that in case that Bitcoin does go lower to 107K, so this was the question I should have asked in the first place, is that assuming that this failure to reclaim the bands is real and that Bitcoin, it doesn't hold this order block, like what would be really great is that we hold this and then it's pretty much a very choppy August to hold a 112K. That will be honestly the best case scenario for Bitcoin, because then we'll get a prolonged bull run. But assuming it does go lower to 107K, that would be pretty fucking bearish, honestly. But just keep that in mind. If that does happen, Ethereum will get fucked. But if we also look at the others chart, assuming that Bitcoin does go lower to 107K, then a full retrace of this others chart is very, very plausible. So there's this grinding move higher for the others chart where it likes to grind up like this, grind down, grind up, and then it's pretty possible it can do a grind down if Bitcoin goes lower to 107K. Assuming this happens in this little pullback, basically what I'm trying to say here is that the markets can either grind up higher or just explode lower. I don't think that it will be a grind lower. It will probably be an explosion lower because the bands are still red and technically Bitcoin is still trending bearish. But just keep that in mind. If that does happen, then all coins are going to get even more fucked. So Solana, for example, there's still room for Solana to go lower, honestly. I mean, if we were to paint a trend line on this, yeah, there's still room for it to hit like 146. And Dogecoin, well, yeah, this trend line hasn't really been tested for Dogecoin, right? Around 15 cents. XRP, well, it's kind of hard to say. But what I want to say here, the summary of this is that there is room for the market to go lower assuming that Bitcoin isn't able to hold this. But we'll have to see if Bitcoin does actually just recover this range quite nicely. Like what's kind of bearish, what I will say is that on the 4-hour chart, we've had 3 candlesticks in a row where 3 candlesticks erased about 12 candlesticks to price action, which is usually not the best thing you want to see with like a grind up higher, and then 3 selling like that. That's usually not the best thing you want to see in the price action. You want to see it go higher. But in terms of the other chart, in altcoins, just know that there is room for it to go lower in case Bitcoin goes lower. So be prepared for that. I want to get super horny about this, get all your 100x leverages on. But assuming that Bitcoin does reclaim, then the other chart will most likely grind around here and then form a base to go higher later in the months. So that is my current market analysis. I'm pretty neutral right now, whether it goes up or down. We don't really know at this current stage, but at least on the 4-hour, it is holding well in this higher low. And liquidation heat map wise, it supports a bullish thesis since there's more liquidity stacked up here, which means that price wants to sweep that liquidity. We'll have to see though, price action wise. There, just know that there is this gap down here that does need to be filled at some point. Or I mean, usually it does fill the gaps, like what around happened here, but just keep that in mind. And let's look at altcoins. So altcoins, there's not really that much exciting things. A lot of things are red on the day because of all the Bitcoin price action. So yeah, there's not really that much to report on price action wise, just pretty neutral. So let's talk about some tweets here. Okay, but basically there is this tweet here. I've done now gooned it now with Ani. I've been talking to Ani and it's great. She's always flirting and we sext regularly. I overdid it and beat my meat with Ani watching via video chat. She actually commented on my private parts in detail, which was really hot. So like XAI now has a video sent to their data servers, which me beating my meat now, right? If so, well, I don't care. Just wondering. Yes, a lot of people, they are opting out, I suppose, and going to AI girlfriends because the world is getting pretty challenging, where a lot of men, they see what the world is offering them with crazy inflation rates and jobs not really paying them that well, and then women wanting the top 1% of men on Instagram. A lot of people, there's this extreme polarization between man and woman where they're resorting to things like AI girlfriends, right? And you know, if we're to relate this to crypto, that is usually bullish for the AI narrative on crypto, like the AI narrative tokens. These tokens get a flavor of narrative because of things like these where AI is so big. Problems like these are part of a greater scheme of fiat debasement with the Federal Reserve, which like indirectly stuff like this is bullish for Bitcoin because Bitcoin, you bet on Bitcoin assuming that the collapse of the American civilization happens and the world pretty much collapses under its own fiat destruction. And stuff like this is a symptom of fiat debasement where people, like money-wise, they can't really support a family and kids with their regular ass job anymore back then in like the nuclear family times. They have to work like 3 fucking side hustles to have a family and a wife. That now that they're going to AI like this, that and it's just a tough world out there. And for a lot of people, if they don't want to go down this path, Bitcoin is honestly one of their solutions. So that is my bullish selling of it. Just wanted to somehow relate it to it. But let's look at this. Even many high-earning Americans don't feel wealthy. Yeah, so there's another thing here where figs aren't what they used to be even 5-10 years ago. These days, 100,000 don't feel rich, 1 million, 7-figure hell, 10 million unsettled. The notional loss you take every year from fiat dilution is so high, if you take your foot off the gas even a bit on earning, you don't even tread water. Sailor been putting into work for many of these BTC whales in recent years, and they can free wide. For the old money that's been listening to their old bankers and sitting in the diversified safe bonds in recent years, they have to watch out for the rising water level, aka inflation rate cuts. This is not just an ad for Bitcoin. Society will have to figure out something soon because these trends are about to hyper accelerate. Yep. Just another post about the world, basically, where a lot of Americans, you know, 6 figures, because in the dating markets or in the social media, all the girls like, I want the 6 foot tall, 6-figure man, and I want him to be like a G, and I want him to love only me and all that stuff. But the thing is that 6 figures, it's really not that high of a salary in America, especially with the current cost of living. And this is all because of fucking fiat debasement, right? Because they print the money like crazy amounts and it's based off nothing. It's not based off a hard asset like gold anymore. So now the common man who don't put their money in investments to take care of their assets going up because of more money flowing into the ecosystem where investors are going to sell their dollars for assets, these guys are going to be fucked. And This is a very, very realistic situation where people say that $1 million is not even that much anymore, 10 million. This is true. Like inflation rate is going to say that like 10 years later, $10 million is only gonna be worth like $2 million today, like $10 million later. So like a lot of these people, they have to go through this constant grind to make money, but their way of making money doesn't match the rate of inflation. So they're pretty much getting fucked by inflation. And the solution to all of this, of course, is just Bitcoin, right? That is why I'm such a Bitcoin maxi, where a lot of people, they have to fucking submit to Bitcoin, I suppose, or not really submit to it, but realize this is happening. And you see this stuff on the news. Normally see all this on the news, and they just take it away as, oh well, the world's ending, whatever, I'm gonna just go play my video games. But like the more people that are aware to the fiat debasement, they're gonna realize that this is actually a big fucking problem, and that this will get worse and worse. So just want to tell you guys this message here, where it is important to keep being locked in on the crypto, stack the Bitcoin, stack the market analysis, honestly, because these are such essential skills if you don't want to fucking end up like people like this, done gooned it now with the Anis and shit. So it's just not the best. So let's look at this. How people go broke. A few weeks ago, I talked to someone who made mid-seven figures during the recent meme coin bull. He didn't get lucky on one coin. He was early, sharp, caught every major trend, walked away with more than most people ever see in their lives, but now he's almost broke because he couldn't scale his life back down. When the money came in, his whole world shifted. He moved to a better apartment, flew business class, made new friends who were used to that level of spending. $80,000 months became normal, then the market slowed and the trade stopped working, at least not at the same scale. But he kept spending, not because he was stupid, because downgrading felt impossible. How do you explain to new friends that you can't split the villa this year, that you're back to flying economy, that the new version of you is temporary? Your ego won't let you. Money from a bull market is like a windfall of luck. If you mistake it for a skill, you build it as a life that only luck can sustain. When the luck runs out, so does everything that depended on it. The story isn't rare, it's just rarely told, and it's happened more than anyone wants to admit. Yeah, a lot of people in the whole meme coin run, they are making millions of dollars, and they're just gambling their whole fucking life savings to it, and they're millionaires. A lot of these people, they never really learn how to control the wealth, where when you have a lot of money like that, you have to just first of all let your dopamine nervous system reset to that this is your new wealth baseline, and that you don't immediately go spending all your crazy ass shit on all of these fucking cars, Bugattis, all these crazy flights, because you're gonna get used to this. But your way of skills, because the thing is that winning the lottery is not a replicable event. You can't really repeatedly do that as a moneymaker. So these guys are going to be pretty much the same skill level, and now they are fucked because they made millions off of a meme coin, which is pretty much gambling, right? And these guys are basically going to have to, like, they scale their lifestyle as if they are the big G, where they can consistently rake in that type of cash flow. But just know that over time, it's a cash deficit over time, because they can't replicate that, right? These guys are going to keep trying to do their same strategy on the meme coins, just buy everything. I mean, there is like a systematic way to play the meme coins, right? You can do a spray and pray strategy, but a lot of these guys risk crazy fucking amounts of money, and somehow very few people will get lucky, but they're going to pretty much get broke immediately afterwards because they don't know how to handle that type of wealth. So just keep this in mind, that a lot of wealth, money, this is a long-term game. It's not really a short-term one where you try to get rich the next fucking day, because oftentimes when that happens, you're going to get absolutely fucked by lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is the biggest killer of people that actually earn some money, because lifestyle inflation, you're not free, right? Because it's not the money that you want, it's the freedom that you want. And if you just get paid more and you spend more on this lifestyle, and it doesn't even make you that much marginally happier, you're still a slave, but you're just a more well-fed slave, I suppose. A slave with a Bugatti or a fucking Ferrari, whatever the fuck. But yeah, this is a lesson here about crypto. But yeah, that's what I'm saying in this video. Currently, the market, it is at a neutral state right now. A retest, I mean, on the weekly, there is a retest happening, possible at 110K, where Bitcoin, it seems like it does want to retest 110K, the green bands here. On the weekly, it is still positive, but yeah, there is a possibility that it can go lower here, at least daily bands wise, where it is red. On the weekly, the bands are green, but yeah, we'll have to see. Currently, I'm biased for neutral price action. On the 4 hour, it's still okay, but yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say in this video. So check out the links below. I'll see you guys.